Hello, good evening, and welcome back. So the woke mob of cancel culture will always try and find new prey. They will not be satisfied until everybody who is anybody can be stamped out and cancelled so that everybody toes the party line. And with that in mind, it doesn't even matter if what they're pushing is factually accurate. Instead, it simply matters if what has been said or done can be perceived by the most sensitive of people as having a slight on somebody somewhere who belongs to one of their protected groups, which, put simply, is anybody who is not a straight white male. With that in mind, we have the perception argument here, which is almost reminiscent of Larry Elder's interview debacle from a few years ago that I'm sure you remember, when he had an interview and was said, oh yeah, you're all the same, you white males, and understanding black people. And he said, yeah, I think you've been misinformed because I'm actually black. But we have a similar thing here, but slightly different, with David Jason. Of course, loved, of course, from his Only Fools and Horses, and then latterly Frost, for what it's worth. But first and foremost, Only Fools and Horses. Loved by the nation for his performances in that. So, he has been accused of racism, of course, as you would expect, for recalling an anecdote from 1969 of quoting our Queen Elizabeth II, who called a US ambassador a gorilla. Well, not quite actually. She was warned that, oh, careful, there's a gorilla coming in, who was a US ambassador, because of his short body and long arms. And some people thought, oh, clearly racist. Must be racist because, when you think gorilla, you don't think of animal or particular disproportionate proportions of an individual. Instead, apparently, you think of a black person. So it's kind of been blown out the water when it comes to see that it's actually Walter Annenberg, who was a white man. And that, essentially, put simply, is what it is all about. But of course, it's not going to stop there. Just because the truth comes up and it so happens that it's to do with a white person, it doesn't matter. They are still going to pile on. And that gets to the more important point for me, which comes down to projection. So, of course, you're going to have people who are racist, heavily racist, and feel guilty for being that way. And therefore, they're going to project their own feelings onto other people. So, when they see a disparaging word, or disparaging act, or disparaging statement, whatever it might be, which is a way that they would describe somebody else, they automatically presume and project it to be a similar derogatory intention from the person who has said it, even though such intention is ethereal and doesn't exist. So that is precisely what has happened here. So they hear the word gorilla, and they automatically think black person, because, that is what they think of black people, is that soft bigotry of low expectations, if you wish to be nice about it. But this, I think, is significantly worse. And therefore go, oh, gorilla, that must mean you're talking badly about the black person. And you go, no, actually, fucking no. This can be due to disproportionate body length, for example. But we shouldn't lose track of what is really going on here. And this, personally, I think isn't addressed nearly enough. That there are several stereotypes, of which I'm not really allowed to mention, but I'm sure you're aware yourself. And these are not factually accurate statements in terms of 1350, for example, and we all know what that means. But instead, they are more to do with swimming or jumping or nostrils, for example, as I'm sure you can understand. And unfortunately, that is as vague as I have to be until BitChute allows easier uploads. So that is their thoughts, and of course that is constantly what they're up against, because if you grow up and you are inculcated in the dogma of such a racially divisive culture, then you're going to look for said racism and differences everywhere. It is the antithesis of colorblindness in terms of a tolerant, all-accepting society, and instead it is trying to point out the differences, to find them, to isolate them, to draw any distinction as possible between people in order to push them into a protected group or to label them as an oppressor instead. And in doing this, it is where these people find their value. And that is the key point. That is the primary takeaway. As much as the projection and hypocrisy is fun to go about, and with the whole "know you" debacle, the main thing is that this is where these people find their purpose. These people, as in the ones who wish to draw those delineations and are the collectivists in terms of drawing up these groups based on unalienable characteristics. So they find their purpose from thinking, oh, I have white guilt and the white savior complex, in terms of I see something as what I view as I wouldn't even say immoral, I would just say an imperfection. There we go. And therefore it is their crusade in order to try and rectify it, even if they are unwelcome. And that is why they have such a short fuse when it comes to a member of what they view as a protected group, in going against them to say, yeah, we don't actually need you, because of course that is where they garner their meaning from. And therefore, if a black person, I suppose one of the primary examples would be somebody like Larry Elder or Thomas Sowell, as more of an intellectual, would say, yeah, well, we don't need you and we can actually get by on ourselves just fine, because would you Adam and Eve it, we're still actually people and we're not the gorillas that you think we are. That these woke leftists cannot handle that at all, because their whole reason for being is suddenly upended and destroyed. And therefore, instead of thinking they might have made a mistake with their life purpose, they have to shut it down immediately. And an easy way to do that is to call them a race traitor, for example, or to use that built-up racism that they've learned and developed through the soft bigotry of low expectations in why they think that ethnic minorities, or these protected groups rather, need their assistance, that they can then use these retorts and arsenal of derogatory phrases in order to cast aspersions onto the people who wish to be left alone and be individuals. So they research the what they would call the evil people full of hate speech, not so much to disparage them, but more so to learn what they're saying in order to build up a greater arsenal, so that when they go on their crusades in order to feel morally justified and having a purpose, if they do encounter opposition from somebody who doesn't appreciate their help, instead of saying, oh cool, you've already achieved what I was hoping you would achieve, in which case, bloody hell, good on you, let's empower more people like you, they can instead say, oh no, you're a buzzword, bad buzzword, in order to discourage people, particularly these protected groups, from developing that individual responsibility and accountability for their own lives, in order to protect this this vision, this fake creation of purpose for the woke leftist who's going after it in that role. And that is precisely what we're seeing here, and we see play out time and time again. So with this all in mind, just to wrap up, it's worth noting how to actually try and counter such a thing. And the easy answer is, of course, to go with individualism. It's easy to say, well, how about we actually try and develop that colorblind nature in order to say, we don't really care about which protected groups and collectivist ideology you wish to use, because it has no bearing or standing whatsoever. It's nice and more cathartic to brand them as the true racists, as I'm sure you see time and time again. And if you're looking for a quick fix in order to get rid of your pent-up rage, then that is definitely an easy way to do it. But if you're looking to actually change minds and move forward, then unfortunately it is a much longer process in delving down into what it is that they actually wish to achieve. And it is only through there to delve down into core principles and then build up from a philosophical level that you can actually then address the politics on a more macro level after you've delved into the micro of what it is precisely that they are trying to fix. So, yeah, unfortunately, it is a much longer fix. But if you wish to do it without addressing them head on, then just continue what you're doing. Honestly, that is a very straightforward way. Just keep doing what you're doing. You keep continuing on with values and the British culture, which has been successful for the entire globe for centuries now. And by embodying those values, then you don't see racism and branding based on skin colour, and instead you see success and development and progress from anybody who wishes to embody Enlightenment values and free market capitalism and actually using persuasion instead of force. Of course, using the nuclear family unit as a foundation starting off base point, then they are going to see much greater success as well. So very simply, embodying these values is what is going to help in the long term, because it is going to destroy any of their theories that they might have about systemic racism and the like, because they will no longer be relevant. However, finally, I do understand that this is difficult given the big leftist push in order to ensure that black people in particular are kept on welfare forever, so that they vote in for bigger government. And as Stefan Molyneux shone a light on in his a few years ago now, 2015, 16, something like that, presentation on single mothers and welfare and benefits in America, that I believe they'd have to be earning $62,000 a year as a single parent with 2 children in order to outweigh the benefits they get from childcare and welfare. So, quite obviously, it's worth being on welfare instead, financially speaking. Does that give the children a good moral standing? No, of course it doesn't. And is this also why you could never find any parents raising their children on minimum wage? Yes, because social state welfare is greater than that. However, although the money might be good, are the inspirations and influences for the children any good? No, of course not. And that is the key point to address, which is only done so through culture, which is done by embodying Enlightenment values, pushing them forward, being the role model, and encouraging other people to have what you have by copying the actions as you. As Tony Robbins says, if you copy someone's actions, you copy their outcome. For better or worse. But that's it for me. So let me know what you guys think down below. In terms of leftist projection, that why is it? Is it, as I say? And if so, what are your suggestions for how to fix it? Because it's nice to address these problems and understand what they are, but the key thing is, of course, how to rectify them. We're all looking for a cohesive community that used to exist when people actually knew their neighbours. So, how do we get there? That's my 2 cents, but let me know down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, as always, until next time, have a good one.